spooky season, which of course means it's time to run your Halloween. Oh my god. I was actually gonna try to do the whole intro in this thing, but I'm pretty sure it's scratching in the microphone and I can't see anything. This is impossible. Hold on, give me a second. Oh, it's so much hotter in that thing than I expected. Oh, it really messed up my hair too. Oh, I'm sweating so much. This is a terrible idea. This is an awful, awful idea. Anyways, back to what I was saying, it's spooky season, which means it's typically time for people to run their Halloween one-shots. And usually around this type of year, you start seeing a lot of videos about how to make Dungeons & Dragons scary. The simple fact is, you're not gonna do that. Dungeons & Dragons isn't made to be scary. It's really difficult to make that happen. And while yes, it is possible, it takes a huge amount of buy-in from the players, a lot of prep on the DM's part, and generally, just an understanding that you're all coming to pretend to be scared. That's basically what's happening. I mean, we've seen examples of people being scared in D&D before. Just take Travis Willingham, for example.
As you're kind of looking over towards the throne, you look up, and about 10 feet above the throne, standing up in the seaweed, holding onto the clusters of it, you see what looks to be a female humanoid form, mostly in shadow. Hair down over the front of the face, one yellow eye peeking through on this side and one half open yellow eye kind of glancing through, just kind of up against the wall.
She's right above the throne.
The song. It's the
I'm holding him.
her hungry eye. It's
You watch as she kind of scrambles across the side of the wall, behind the seaweed, and is gone.
She's gone. To be fair, Travis is a giant scaredy cat. Sorry, Travis, if you see this one, but regardless, it's true. He gets scared very easily, but even Travis is leaning into being scared there. Part of it is for entertainment value, part of it is just because he wants to be scared. He wants this to be spooky. Matt is trying to make it spooky, so he wants to be scared as well. It takes both sides wanting to be scared, and it makes a very difficult situation when you have squeamish players who don't really want to feel that way. And those players aren't wrong for that. Fear is a very strange motivator, and if you have certain emotions within you that you've had traumatic experiences with in the past, you're not going to be able to just push past the fear and not remember those memories. There's a reason some people have triggers, and they should be taken seriously. So when you go out to your game this year and try to make the spookiest time possible, what is it that you're actually gonna do to make that hit home with your players without getting really bogged down with the whole fear thing? Well, I've found that there are a few different options. The number one is just to make it Halloween themed and make it real goofy. I mean, I love Halloween and my wife loves Halloween. It's a great time of year with a lot of spooks, a lot of scares, a lot of fun, but most of the fun is the goofiness of the spookiness. I mean, honestly, you go into Spirit Halloween or you go into your different costume shops and you'll look around at all these scary animatronics, and let's be honest, they're just kind of fun to laugh at. It's fun to pretend to be scared and maybe get a little bit of a creepy feeling from them, but nobody's actually genuinely feeling fear. And that's probably what you want to lean into when you're trying to run a Halloween one-shot. I myself am running one of my group's Halloween one-shots this year. Very excited to do it, will be a lot of fun, and I plan on leaning a lot more into the ridiculousness of the monster archetypes. Having them face against classic ghouls and ghosts like Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, or, well, you know, pretty much any of the classic monsters, because it's fun to lean into that and be a little bit goofy with it. If I wanted to genuinely scare them, I really have only done that once in any of the games I've ever run, and it really took a lot of effort and a lot of atmosphere setting. Which leads into the second portion. If you really want to scare your players, you don't really want to scare them, you want to convince them to scare themselves. I've talked about this in the past, but the number one portion of fear is unknown. The unknown is far scarier than anything that is in reality because it could be anything. But the moment that you know what it is, suddenly it can't be anything anymore. You know exactly what it is. It's why so many classic monster movies in the past really did well not showing the monster. It was because of budgetary reasons. They didn't really have a lot of money to show them a lot, but it caused a lot more fear. That's why the original Jaws movie hit so hard. They honestly had a really hard time getting the animatronic to work, and so they had it out of sight for most of the time. But that really worked well with the audiences. So the first time that I really scared my players, it was almost kind of on accident, but it did take a lot of work. I had this beast roaming the halls in this deep underwater castle they were in. It would move through the halls and occasionally they would just hear this betcha something rattled and it moved its claws along. They didn't want to be caught. Not being caught was super important for the mission, so they couldn't stick around to try and view the creature. They kept hiding from it and hearing it move by, and it caused them some genuine fear. Honestly, it was just a bone devil. A kind of beefed up bone devil, but it wasn't anything that was super impressive against them. But nonetheless, it really did nail in this really core lesson that I learned, that the unknown is far scarier than anything I could actually come up with. Let the players convince themselves that they're scared. But again, players won't do this if they don't want to be scared. And that's where you really have to work with them to find a way to make those two things connect. The third thing that I would do for a Halloween one-shot is don't let the players be scared. Let them be the scary things, the things that go bump in the night. My brother actually suggested this one-shot idea to me, and I kind of love it. The idea of letting the players be the monsters. Now, this doesn't mean all the combat encounters are gonna be walks in the park. Of course, they're gonna have to fight against things and actually genuinely overcome stuff. But the idea of letting them be the scary things makes it so that they are heavily invested in being scared. Because they want to be scary. They want to envelop and embrace the things that they are scared of in order to inflict that into the game. And so it makes it work really, really well. And I honestly find that this is one of the best ways to do it, because if you could do that, then you can reverse it on them and start scaring the players with their consent, of course, because they're already invested in the scariness of it all. They already want to be scary, so if something ends up being scarier than them, well, that's just horrifying, and plays into the unknown aspect if you do it right. And I find that incredibly fun, super evocative, and frankly, just one of the best ways to run a D&D one-shot with embracing the spooky fun of October and Halloween in general. I mean, All Hallows Eve is a deep tradition, as is D&D. So why not embrace the two, right? The fourth and final thing that I really found works well with D&D one-shots being spooky is just going with the classics. Things like Strahd are incredible because Curse of Strahd really does embrace that spooky vibe, while not going too far into the camp, but embracing the camp enough. I mentioned earlier that embracing the goofiness is one portion of it, but there is a way to find a balance, and I think Curse of Strahd is great. And one of the reasons of that is because it embraces the mechanics of the game as well as scariness. One way of causing real fear in your players is embracing the two aspects of a mechanic that could take something that they have invested in and getting them to invest into something. What this means is that Curse of Strahd is a little bit punishing at times, but your players do not want to lose their characters. And because it is punishing, that does cause that little bit of fear. But the problem is you have to be a little bit careful with this, because if it's too punishing, it becomes less fun and suddenly nobody wants to play the game with you anymore, right? I mean, why would they? If you're just constantly causing them to lose everything that they're working for, they're not gonna feel invested because they know they're gonna lose it. And that's the balance you have to strike, and why it's so difficult, because you have to be able to find the way of causing them to have enough to invest into and putting enough danger towards that investment. And that is actually extremely difficult. But that's why I mentioned Curse of Strahd, because I think it does actually do a pretty decent job of coming together with that, though it could definitely use some work. Ultimately, what you want to do is you want to put a main threat out there that could take away their investment and leave everything else just a little dangerous enough to potentially threaten their investment, whether it is their characters, their loot, etc., but not actually enough to take it. But the big bad will be the one who can take it from them, and they need to be prepared for that, because then they'll get scared of it and they don't want to fight it necessarily. And that's what really brings it all together to make a really cohesive story. So go out and run an awesome Halloween story. If you want to learn more about scaring your players, I got a video right here for you.